A couple of things as we kind of come out of our first week, which is Module 1, and we enter into Module 2. A couple of things to think about, particularly as our assignments are coming up. This next module, in Module 2, you will have a discussion board, just like in Module 1, a discussion board where you'll do an initial post and then you'll have to respond to two of your classmates, kind of adding to the conversation. And that's what's most important, is that you are connecting with that person and you are adding to the conversation. If we're simply connecting with the person and saying, hey, I really like your idea about XYZ, I kind of think the same, or hey, I really like your idea about XYZ, I've never thought about that. Well, that's great. That causes you to actually start to make a connection with the person, and you're validating what the person is saying, which is always important when we're in discussion, is that, we're going to always have points of disagreement. We also have points of agreement. When we disagree, we need to disagree with respect, and even provide a different lens through which we might be able to look at something. Or I hear what you're saying. This is my perspective on this. This is how I process this, or this is how I view this. Not devaluating the other person's point of view, but simply posing a different perspective, as you kind of process through your world. So that's disagreement. Agreement is of course very nice, and it feels very good, and it also validates the person that you're actually listening to them. But it's not simply an I agree with you. It's an I agree with you, and then you expound upon that as you are giving new insights to those connections, those positive connections that you're making. So disagreement, I hear what you're saying, new insight, here's how I look at this. This is my perspective. In agreement, I hear what you're saying, I really agree with this, and I'm adding on to it. And that's really what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for, again, we've got to adjust to, this is academic, right? We're not texting each other. We're not sending each other brief emails. This is depth, right? We're learning. One of your classmates, I was talking to one of your classmates about, the difference between checking the boxes according to the president's video, checking the boxes versus actually learning. If we are taking ownership of not just the fact that and this is of course Module 1, taking ownership of getting our work in on time, making sure that we're actually doing our work, that's kind of what I want to say. That takes care of one aspect of ownership, right? It takes care of the what, and that is, I have an assignment, I need to turn it in, I need to take ownership of turning this in on time. But the how, perhaps use a different word. How far are you engaged into that assignment? I'm looking for that. There's a type of ownership that goes into that, so that we're making sure that we're not expecting that, well, if I just check this block real quick, then I'm going to get a superior grade because that's what I'm actually after. That's one kind of expectation, and folks, honestly, that's unrealistic. If we're just going to check the boxes, that's ownership of getting it done. But to what degree do we get it done? What does our work ethic look like? How deep are we engaging in our thinking process? That is taking ownership of your learning. And then, of course, the grade comes with that. If you're really looking for that superior grade, then it is really going to require you to do more than kind of a text message response. And that's in your initial posting, and then also when you're responding to your classmates. Okay, so as we kind of transition from that discussion about ownership and what it means to take ownership of our academic success. We looked at kind of the umbrella of it all, exploring power and what this textbook is about and what that acronym means, which I was definitely looking for in those initial posts. Do we understand what that acronym means? What are we getting ready to read? And then, of course, understanding those learning styles, which becomes really, really important for your cognition. Your brain is attached to those learning styles. And so part of taking that ownership is ownership of power in all of its intricacies, but also taking ownership of your own way of learning, how your brain likes to pick up information and process it and store it for long-term use, right? We have to take ownership of that as well. And so understanding how you learn becomes really important. And then the last thing that we talked about in Module 1 was knowing when we are feeling a sense of failure, when something's falling apart and we know we're giving it our all, we go out and we reach for help. We have resources with Southern New Hampshire University to help us. We have our professor. We have our academic advisor to help us. We have services for behavioral health when things become overwhelming. We have all of these resources out there that Southern New Hampshire provides for you because we want to take ownership of our success. And sometimes taking ownership means taking ownership of those moments when all we have is just not enough and we have to reach out for help and not look at that, again, growth mindset versus fixed mindset, not look at that as failure because we have to look for help. That is actually strength, that we go and we look for help because we are pulling on all of our resources. We are not saying that we cannot do this. That is not the message. The message is we can do this. And sometimes we just need somebody else in the game with us to help us to maybe perceive something a little bit differently, or maybe they have a really good sense of your learning style and they're able to get that information turned around in a way that your brain likes to receive it. And so that is actually taking failure, and it is looking at failure as an opportunity to grow as opposed to simply, I am just insufficient. I am just a failure. That is not how we want to think. So that was all of that in Module 1. And we kind of move from that generic kind of overview into Module 2, discussing managing your time and all of the things that can be disruptive to your educational pursuits when you have, as we all do, I'm trying to record a video and I'm sweating. we have multiple obligations in our lives, and we have those things prioritized in a certain way. And sometimes several of them almost occupy the same space of priority. Okay, so now what do we do? And so managing our time, getting ourselves organized is going to be our discussion in Module 2. And again, I am looking for depth. Those initial postings, when you put your initial discussion board or your journal, okay, you have a discussion board and you have a journal posting. When you are writing those out, please remember that Dr. Johnson is looking for depth. I am looking for you to discuss each one of those points that the instructions give you. Okay, each one of those points. I'm expecting you to open up your rubric for the discussion, open up your rubric for the journal, and look and see, what is she looking for? How am I going to be graded on this? So that you know how to structure your assignment well, so that you're not just turning it on time, but you're turning it in with depth. Okay, you are taking ownership of the instructions, you are taking ownership of the rubric, and you are meeting the rigor there. right? I keep using that word rigor. That's what college is about. It's about rigor, when actually your job is about rigor as well. That's your work ethic. So let's give this another shot. Again, growth mindset. If the grade from Module 1 doesn't look like what you would like, you now have lots of feedback as to how to get it there based on what it is that I'm looking for, again, lined up with that rubric. Okay, so please feel free to reach out to me if you have any comments or questions or concerns. Again, I am one of those resources here at Southern New Hampshire, here to help you to take ownership of your success. All right, so have a great week, everybody, and I look very forward to the conversations. Bye-bye.